back, everybody, to another episode of the Acquaintance Podcast. I am officially calling this one 9.5. You could call it 10. I'm going to call it 9.5 for the time being, because this week it is just myself, Matt Newhall, and we are down one Alex King, but still joining us is...
Jeffrey Feeney.
Yeah,
It's really unfortunate. Since last Sunday, all of the rest of our friends were killed.
Well, no. We're backtrack a little bit. Alex is in the National Guard and is currently serving downtown at our state's capital of Nashville, and
He's a little busy.
Yeah, and he's just a little busy because what we talked about last week is still going on, and in my opinion has gotten a lot worse. Thankfully around here it has not gotten worse, but I would say like nationwide it has progressively gotten worse and worse. But Tennessee has actually been pretty mild since day one. So
I was really not only surprised but really impressed, because for those of you who haven't been listening to the news, Nashville's popped up a lot this year because just a lot of shit keeps happening.
Yeah.
There was a tornado in Nashville.
Yeah, it was the first. It was like that first week of March, or maybe even the second week of February.
No, it was. I think it was March 4th.
Yeah, because
it was March 3rd.
Yeah, because it was before the corona hit Nashville hard too.
Right. Well, it was also the day that night. It was the morning I got out of the hospital, and the tornado was like less than half a mile away from the hospital.
Really? I didn't know that. Dang.
Yeah. So that's a whole other thing. But and then so there was and Nashville has had a lot of just in our lifetime living in Middle Tennessee.
Oh, it's gotten so big.
Floods and just a lot of problems, and so there's just this. One of the moments of solidarity was that the tornado tore apart the building that has the famous one of
the murals.
The murals on it, but left the walls with the murals.
Yeah,
it was really cool. And then COVID hit, and Nashville was the first city to be like, no, all our shit just got reopened. We're not shutting down. And so everyone was making fun of Nashville.
And we had thousands of volunteers downtown helping with tornado relief, clearing up rubble, and also one of the nearby cities that's kind of a sort of a suburb of Nashville, but not quite too bad. About 30 minutes east of Nashville, they got hit debatably worse than Nashville did. They got hit really bad. And then about an hour and a half east of Nashville, there's a small city that actually had the most casualties, and it is where Alex, actually his alma mater, is in that town. So
and the only acquaintance who has not made an appearance yet is also its alma mater.
Yeah.
So you've gotten out of the seven Justice Leaguers, you've gotten 6 so far.
Yeah.
Which maybe that makes him automatically the Batman of the group, because he's the most distant and removed. He pretty famously moved to Virginia without telling any of us he was moving to Virginia until he moved to Virginia.
And then he was like, hey, I'm in Virginia now. And we were like, oh, all right, cool, I guess.
It's not like he doesn't like being friends or anything. It's just he's just that he's like that.
Yeah.
He's just like, I don't really.
And then he'll randomly show back up in town and not tell anybody, and then we find out through other people, and they're like, Elijah's in town.
It's really hard to catch him. You got to try to catch him. He's like, whoa, and then coronavirus, and now the Black Lives Matter protests.
Yeah.
But the most recent Nashville protest was actually looked at nationwide because of not only the amount of protesters, but how peaceful it was.
Yeah, it was very calm.
It was very, and
was
everyone
awesome.
was just looking at how powerful that was.
It was awesome to kind of be at least in proximity to that that sort of proximity.
Yeah.
And
I myself didn't go because I was at the Murfreesboro one, and I'm waiting to see if
right,
I have any COVID symptoms.
right. That's
I didn't
smart.
because yeah, because as an
Smart.
asthmatic, like
Yeah.
that's a potential issue. But I also pretty famously in the group chat where the idea of this podcast gestated, announced at the beginning of the lockdown that I was immune to coronavirus. And I was just like, I've
Oh
chosen to
no.
be immune to COVID-19.
Well,
Like, so questioned about it. My nickname in that group chat is Jeffrey Sanitizer Feeney, and it has been for several years. And I was
that's
like, I've
true.
been prepping for this for a long time, you know?
Right, right. But I don't really want to get into the political nonsense. We kind of did that last week. I kind of want to keep it lighthearted. But before we
Yeah,
jump into
absolutely.
lighthearted, I do want to give another shout out to anyone out there, any law enforcement or National Guard that is doing, being righteous and doing the just thing. Because I know you are out there, even though a lot of negative media is shining light on poor situations, but I want to give a shout out again to those that are serving and serving and protecting the people the way they're supposed to. So, but back to the kind of the
Well,
fun, lighthearted
I've got a
stuff.
little comment on that too.
Okay, go for it.
And then
Yep.
because I said before, one of our friends, Logan, he's a
Mm-hmm.
police officer. He's not policing tonight though, because as of like an
Oh
hour and a
yeah.
half ago, he got married.
Yep.
Um,
That's true.
which and he it's not like, oh wow, that's where everyone is. Jeffrey and Matt just weren't invited to the wedding. It's not like that. It's like
No,
there was a wedding, but
COVID
they just wanted
fucked
to
it
have
over.
they eloped. They
Yeah.
wanted to have a small ceremony, and then they're still doing the whole big one. They just
Yeah.
pushed it back a year.
Yeah.
And Alex is a guardsman, as Matt previously
Mm-hmm.
said, and I think it would be really interesting, like in the coming weeks, to have both of them on to offer their.
Yes.
Because I was fortunate enough to talk to Alex and Logan in the past week, and hearing like what they've seen in their side of it
Yeah.
was there was a lot of really eye-opening stuff.
Yeah.
In my opinion. But again, I'm not going to speak for them. And
Right.
yes, let's move on to lighthearted
Yeah.
stuff.
So you said we were kind of talking a little bit before the podcast started. You said you've been watching a shit ton of movies.
Shit ton of movies.
What you also mentioned that you were given a challenge.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
I actually would. You briefly mentioned this challenge, and
Yeah.
why don't you tell the listeners and or viewers, if you happen to be watching this on YouTube, kind of what this challenge is and why it is a task.
It is a task. So I want to I've had a long history of not being fiscally responsible when it comes to media. Like if I'm in a store and I see a movie and I don't have that movie and I want that movie, I'll buy it. But then it became I'm in a store and I see a movie and I've never heard of it and I think it would be interesting, and before I even look up to see if it's good or bad, I'll buy it. And so I accumulated hundreds of DVDs, Blu-rays, and VHS. Granted, a lot of those VHS came from my grandmother's personal collection, where she would do yard sailing, but still, they're mine. I own them. And I would safely say I've seen 40 to 50%. Just because like I have a lot. There's a lot I have now. Maybe it's more than that. I don't know, but I'm safe number 40 to 50. And to kind of show my parents that I was like growing as a person and stuff, and my parents were like, okay, well, we don't want to, because my dad has never had a problem buying me books, because I read the books, and like that's always been a thing. But movies are different, because like there are movies I've had for 8 or 9 years that I still haven't watched, and it became a real bad problem. And so my challenge was that before I purchase, and there was actually one part of it that I didn't mention earlier in the pre-show, before I purchase any new movies or rent any new movies,
Oh no.
I will have to. And now when theaters reopen and stuff, I don't know if I'm going to include going to see movies in theaters. as well. But basically, before if I spend any money on a form of media, before that can happen, I have to watch every movie I own, and
Uh,
it's
yeah, I'm gonna make a note on that movie theater thing. I want to come back to that.
okay.
But one thing, so I know you, for anyone who may not have caught on, I think it's been mentioned in past episodes. Jeffrey has seen and forgotten probably more movies collectively than the entire acquaintance group probably has even heard of. So for him to say he's only halfway through a collection is like just adding more to the absurd amount of movies that he has already seen.
It's a lot.
And one thing I was curious about when you were saying that, what are some of the, like, I should say more popular movies that you've seen that you have seen recently, I guess, so since you've started this challenge?
That's the thing that actually, I believe it was mentioned in a couple of weeks ago on the podcast where I mentioned like I'd never seen a Tarantino movie, and there were other movies and stuff like, and I've not seen one yet, but there are a lot of major popular movies I've just not been exposed myself to. Blade Runner, Breakfast Club. I've just done Weird Science.
I would love to talk about Breakfast Club.
Yeah, Breakfast Club. I just done Weird Science. I'm in the last 10 minutes of 16 Candles. The Wild Bunch, How the West Was Won, Happy Gilmore.
Oh, you hadn't seen Happy Gilmore?
Yeah, yeah.
Dang.
And then I'll occasionally just throw in, because like I keep track. One thing I've always done, I don't talk about it. The only person I think I've was told directly is Andy Coombs, but is that I keep track of every different movie I watch, because my goal in 1 year is to reach 365 different movies. Hard to do. It's hard to do. The most I've gotten up to 300, and that was back in high school. Like since I've been in college, it's not been like I'm only on like 54 right now, so it ain't gonna happen this year. I'll occasionally watch, like I also rewatched Toy Story and Nightmare Before Christmas the other night.
Both great. Nightmare is one of my favorite of all time. So
yeah, well, both of those movies are two of my favorite animated movies ever. And I'll put on a movie I'm familiar with. In the background of like working, because I've been working in the garage or in the house and stuff. So like I'll put on Independence Day or Signs or something that like
Signs. I love Signs.
But I know really really well, so I don't feel bad if I have to like step out of the room. I don't pause it to go to the bathroom.
Right. So Signs kind of reminded me thinking of this. So I know I think a couple weeks ago you kind of pointed out how good of an actor Michael Fassbender is. Probably more of like the recent kind of class of actors. Yeah. People that have kind of rose more recently. And you mentioning Signs, and I've known this for a while, but I guess I didn't realize it. I think it's one of those things that like I've known but never really thought about. That Joaquin Phoenix is probably my favorite actor. Like, period.
Really? Wow.
Period. A lot of my favorite movies, Joaquin Phoenix is in almost every single one of them. Including animated movies, because he is the voice of Kenai in Brother Bear.
Oh, yeah. And
so, you mentioning Signs, his role as Meryl is awesome. I love him as Meryl. He's
so funny in that.
Fantastic. Just
he sells when he's like looking at the like the Portuguese party, and he's like telling them to move and stuff, and then the alien passes by. He's like, whoa!
Yeah, and then it pans to him and the little kid in the closet under the stairs wearing the tinfoil hats.
Yeah, that's the hat. Yeah.
But like there's that movie, and then recently,
Gladiator,
Gladiator is mentioned that a few weeks ago. Gladiator is probably my favorite movie of all time, partly due because of his performance is just absolutely incredible as
and that's the thing. Like
Commodus.
Gladiator and Signs were relatively close.
They were about
2 years apart.
I think they were 2 years. Yeah, I think because I think Signs was 2002, and
I think so, Gladiator was 2000.
And then Gladiator was 2000. So it's only a couple.
Brother Bear was 03?
Yeah, and Brother Bear was like 2003, 2004. I think 03 sounds right, though.
But like all three of those roles, vastly different.
Very. And what's funny is like his role, voice acting. I didn't even realize that was him until when Disney Plus came out. Because Brother Bear is one of my favorite Disney movies, and in my opinion, one of the most underrated Disney movies out there. Because the soundtrack in that movie, I know we talked a little bit about soundtracks a couple weeks ago, but that, such a powerful soundtrack that one is. And when Disney Plus came out, I was like, hey, let's watch Brother Bear. And so I was just looking up the cast, who the voice is, and I pulled it up and I was like, wait, what? I was like, no, is that Joaquin Phoenix? And then like the more you listen to it, like you can hear it, but it's like, wow, I never realized that was him. And then Joker was playing on HBO about a week ago, and Abby was just watching it, and I watched the last have you seen Joker yet?
No.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, I know. It's another. Just you would think.
Good God. But I won't delve too much into that. But I watched the last 40-ish minutes of it. Maybe not even that. Maybe even the last 30 minutes. And even the last 30 minutes is just. You want to know a performance that really gets you freaking thinking. It's a very powerful, moving experience. As far as the his performance in that movie, but it was just one of those things I was thinking about when I was doing the movie list, and I was like, come to think of it, I guess I have a thing for Joaquin Phoenix. I guess I just have this.
I was fortunate enough. Let me look this up. A few years years ago at the Belcourt, 2017, I was invited by a good old Andy Coombs, who was the film teacher at Riverdale before he moved to Texas. He'd come back and he invited me, my brother, and a mutual friend to go to the Belcourt and just watch a movie. And we watched a Joaquin Phoenix movie called You Were Never Really Here. And I need to.
That's an older one, isn't it?
So it was. It was made a while ago, but it didn't get released till 2017.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. And then I haven't seen Her, but I know Her is a really good movie too. Yeah, little weird, but that's also Joaquin Phoenix, Yes. So and his roles, like you were saying earlier, vastly different in almost all of his movies, but every single performance he does, I mean, he's definitely a method actor too. I mean, he gets into it hardcore.
There was two. Just talking about You Were Never Really There. There was another movie. I can't remember one. Okay, let me finish. You Never Really Here. You Were Never Really Here. Hyper violent movie. He's the main character. He barely has any dialogue. But there's a revenge arc, and then he breaks up a ring of pedophiles. And
oh wow,
I've seen a lot of movies. Mm-hmm. I've seen a lot of movies, and there's only been 3 times in my entire life I have gotten dizzy because my stomach just was so upset by what was on screen, and that was one of them.
Wow.
The other 2 were Stephen King movies.
Jeez. So what are the other 2?
The other 2 were Gerald's Game and Dolores Claiborne.
See, I haven't watched Gerald's Game because it looks intense.
It is by far the most intense Stephen King movie I've ever seen.
Yeah, because that's the Netflix original one, right? Where he
has Bruce Greenwood,
and they're getting it on, and then he has a heart attack, and it's that one, right?
Yes, and that all happens
Yeah.
within like the first like 10 minutes.
Jeez. That's
Yeah, so
ugh.
the trailer is mostly like the first 10 minutes because it gets
Wow.
like you think it keeps going, and even like the last line in the movie like occasionally I'll remember that line and I'll be
Mm-hmm.
alone in the house and I'll be like shit and I gotta turn on lights and like watch something funny before going
Wow.
to bed because it will freak
Dang.
me out.
Because like all
But
the
yes, I
trailers
recommend
for it
Loki.
it looks creepy. Like it is.
It's
Because just
and
that
there's a lot
situation, because it's one of those things, it's a very real situation that someone could get into.
and that's not even like the worst. Like it's like because I watched this trailer with I just started dating someone at the time, other people, and we were just like, oh, it's a horror movie on Netflix. Cool, we love the trailers, and we started it. And like by the end of it, we were because we were originally planning on like watching 2 or 3 movies that night. By
Right.
the end of it, we're like, we gotta all of us need
Nope.
to. Oh,
Nope, we're done. We're
because
done.
it's not just what happened. Like
Okay.
it's not
It's
just
the
the
environment as
situation that
well.
in the trail like in the trailer and
Right.
what happened after that.
Okay.
There's a lot of shit that happens before that in
Oh,
flashback that
okay.
is like what like is really sickening. But again,
Ooh.
I definitely recommend it. But
Okay, okay. We'll have to check that out.
so
Because me and
Walking
Abby love
Phoenix,
horror, so.
yes. Walking Phoenix once he because he's a method actor, he
Mm-hmm.
did a movie where he was like playing this character, but he wasn't, or he was preparing for a movie where he was playing this character. He wasn't telling anyone he was playing a character. So like there was a period of time, there was like about a year and a half where every time he would do like an interview on late night and stuff, he would be in character, but everyone just thought Joaquin Phoenix lost his mind because of what he was, and that's the reason he
Yeah.
lost the role of Doctor Strange because he was originally going to be Doctor Strange.
Really? I
Yeah,
didn't
but
know that.
yeah, but
I
because of that,
hmm.
Marvel was like, he doesn't look stable enough, and then the movie came out, and everyone was like, oh. But then I also heard the movie
Oh,
was bad, so it's just whatever. But
right.
yeah, that whole rigmarole
I
happened.
think I don't know because I guess we'll never see him as Strange because Doctor Strange is probably my favorite one of my favorite Marvel heroes, and I love Benedict Cumberbatch. He does
Back to Eagles Crush.
such a good job.
Mhm.
He's another one of those. He is so phenomenal as an actor. He is fantastic. I would love to meet him because he also just seems like he'd be a super chill dude.
He pretty famously when a lot of he's not on social media,
Right.
so
Neither is
when
Joaquin.
he
Joaquin Phoenix is also a very, very private person.
yes yeah as is Benedict
Incredibly
Cumberbatch.
private person.
But Benedict Cumberbatch actually used he announced in the newspaper he was getting married before like
Wow.
posting it on social media
Oh
or
my
anything like
god.
online.
What
So
a
like people
dude. That's
do
like a
not.
super old tradition, too.
Yeah, I mean that's an old school one. Like you would
Yeah.
look to see like who was getting married, who passed away, what babies were born, that
Right.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it was just like it's just to kind of show that. Now I've not seen most of his stuff. I've not seen excuse me, I've not seen Sherlock.
Oh, dude.
Um,
Sherlock is freaking phenomenal.
heard good things about Sherlock. I saw him in I've seen him as Doctor Strange. Obviously, I really liked him as
Have
Doctor
you seen The
Strange.
Imitation Game?
No, I've not.
Oh,
I've not
dude,
seen much. I've
you
heard
would
the whole.
love them. Oh, well, you
No, I
can't
haven't.
watch it yet, you jerk.
Is that when he plays Alan Turing?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I've heard good things about that one.
It's his
Um,
performance there is phenomenal too.
I I love he's done a lot of vocal and mocap
Yeah.
stuff as well
Mm-hmm.
because he was Smaug, the
Yep.
voice and the mocap for Smaug, and also a little known fact.
Grinch.
And yeah, well, he's fine in the I didn't like that one that much. I
I
just
haven't seen it, but I've seen
it's
bits and pieces
I've
of
seen
it.
I've seen it a
I
lot.
still like
Um,
I've seen clips and like my mom actually really likes the animated Grinch that they did. And
mhm.
around Christmas time, she was like, "Hey, we watched this. We thought it was super cute, you know." So we watched about half of it, and when I looked up the cast and I saw it was him, I still, even though I knew it was him and I was trying to hear him, I couldn't. I couldn't do
Yeah,
it.
he does a very good. He does a good job. I'm a big fan of the original like '60s Grinch. And
Yeah.
then I also like while watching like I've come around to the Jim Carrey Grinch. I did not
Yeah.
like it growing up, but like as an adult, I'm like, wow, this movie's actually really smart.
Yeah.
Um, and then maybe I'll come around to Benedict Cumberbatch in 20 years. I don't
Yeah,
know.
it's just that
um,
Benedict's Grinch is like a lot more silly, and I think part of that too is the
yeah,
writing. Is part of
yeah.
the writing for that movie. I think they tried to
I mean,
make it a little
well, yeah,
more silly rather
that
than
movie starts out
dark.
trying to make him like sympathetic, like from the
Yeah,
get go,
yeah,
which is whatever.
right.
I will say, did you see that interview with Jim Carrey when he was being interviewed for Dr. Robotnik and Sonic, and
Uh-uh.
someone pointed out, okay, it's really funny, and it's just a real quick thing, and then I'll get back to because I still haven't finished. But he was talking about how people will come up to him and who grew up watching The Grinch and point out to their kids like, "Oh, look, there's the Grinch," and then he made the face like the
Oh yeah.
face, and then he's like, "We'll stop Christmas from coming," and then their parents will always be like, "Oh, I thought that was makeup. Like I didn't realize you could actually do that."
Oh
with your
yeah. No,
face." And like
Jim Carrey's
it's
facial
awesome.
expressions are great. He's
Yes.
so
But
expressive.
Walking Phoenix, one thing a lot of people nowadays don't know, I only know because of how like in depth my parents were with movies and
Uh huh.
stuff. Joaquin Phoenix was at one point the not the famous Phoenix brother that
Yeah.
was an actor in Hollywood.
Yeah, it was his brother Leaf, or no, his River, and
River was the main.
yeah, because Leaf is what he changed his name to, and then he changed it back to Joaquin. River is the one that was really popular in like the early '90s,
Well, he was because River was River.
or
Well, I
late
know he was
'80s, early
really
'90s.
popular. I
Yeah,
think I think he was like that era of like
yeah,
teenage adventure movies.
yeah.
But like the thing that really solidified him with adult audiences was he's young Indiana Jones in the beginning of the third Indiana Jones movie.
Oh, okay.
And like Harrison Ford was just like he's great. And then when they started filming the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, they wanted him to be like, hey, let's reprise the role. But
Mm,
that was also River Phoenix, pretty famously, like a lot of like actors his age in Hollywood at any point got really hardcore into
yeah,
drugs and alcohol and died in a nightclub on
yeah,
Halloween owned by
yep.
Johnny Depp. And
And
it was
Joaquin is the one who found him and called the police.
yeah.
Which is just like
And,
how do you live through that, man? Like that's I bet that was hard.
well, that changed a lot with the Hollywood scene. I think that was part of what scared Johnny Depp straight because Johnny Depp used to be like a not like a hardcore druggie, but like he
He
was
was a little
he
unhinged.
yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, it is what it is. When you work with Tim Burton that much, it happens.
I was about to say, I mean, look at Edward Scissorhands for crying out loud.
Edward Scissorhands is a trip.
Great
But
movie
yeah,
though.
it was a big change in like how people viewed Hollywood because they were just like, no, River Phoenix was supposed to be like
Like
he
the
was
next
supposed to
big
have like
thing.
decades long career. He was
Yeah.
supposed to go on and win Oscars. River
Yeah.
Phoenix was supposed to be like the next like Bogart or whatever, that kind
Yeah.
of thing. And then he died. So, and it's
Yeah.
really funny because I think Joaquin regularly, when he wins awards and stuff, I think he still regularly tributes the award to River. Because
that incident was a large reason why he actually, because at the time he was still going by Leaf Phoenix, and after that incident he changed his
both
name.
brothers had those like hippy dippy names. There's an
Yeah,
old episode of Murder She Wrote that they're all in, and like because like their family was in it,
yeah,
and like so you get to see like baby Leaf Phoenix, baby River
yeah,
Phoenix. That
yeah. Because it's I forget all of their names, but they all have
I think
very
I think one of
different
them
names.
I think one of them is Summer. I think there's a Summer.
Summer. I think that's his sister. I think Summer Phoenix. That sounds right. Because I know he has a sister. But either way, their whole family's in the, kind of. I shouldn't say all of them, but I know his two older brothers were, both actors. It was
They
River.
were all at some point in the industry.
Yeah, because I know River Phoenix was the really big Phoenix
Yeah,
before,
he was the
and then there was was River the oldest, or they had another older brother, and I
I
forget
can't
his
remember.
name. It was like
I used to know,
I
but
know
like
it's, but they all had like earthy kind of tones,
yes,
kind of
yes,
to their names, and that's why Joaquin had changed his name to Leaf temporarily to fit River and I forget his other brother's name. But then after that incident, he changed it back, and really the next like huge major role he did was Gladiator. That was one
mhm,
of his. That was really his kind of after
yep,
that incident, and that was like 8 years in between those. Now
yeah.
he
That
did a
was
couple small things in between, and
yeah,
I think he did a movie in like the late '90s that actually did fairly well. I believe it made a profit. It wasn't like a huge movie,
yes,
but
yes.
um,
Kevin Smith really likes that movie, and it's like one of those. It's one of those movies. Like it's a very. I don't think it's an indie flick, but it definitely has like a cult following. So
yeah,
when you like bring it up, and people are like, "Oh yeah, I love that movie," but it's also like I've never heard of that movie, and they're like, "Oh, that's
right.
the movie that Joaquin Phoenix was like." That's what like good old oh God, what's his name? I've forgotten his name. The director of Gladiator.
Ridley Scott.
Ridley Scott, like apparently that's what Ridley Scott saw to put
Yes.
him in.
He was the one that won. And then I totally forgot about. I'm looking at his IMDb page. He was Johnny Cash in Walk the Line,
Yes. Oh,
which
I have a story about that.
phenomenal movie too.
Um, so I was reading about people who do biopics,
Mm-hmm.
and Johnny Cash obviously passed away like 2 years before Walk the Line even started filming. But Johnny Cash was a huge fan of Gladiator. So he invited Joaquin
Oh,
to his house to hang out. But like at that point, Johnny was like very ill and like he
yeah.
was like shaking and stuff. But the thing that Joaquin was just so blown away by is that because Johnny Cash was a good old Southern boy, and there's many instances of like I have like I know like two people personally who've met Johnny Cash. You know, like
That's
just like
cool.
well, I mean, we're in the right region for it.
That's true. That's
But
a good point. Yeah.
um, but um, he felt that he needed to play for his guests because that's what you did when you entertained. You entertained,
Right.
and Joaquin Phoenix said it was mind blowing because once he strummed the guitar, he stopped shaking until he was done singing,
Wow.
and it was
See,
just
that's
like
just fascinating.
yeah,
That's so
Johnny
cool.
Cash, interesting dude. Like it's just a
Yeah.
lot of really like it
Yeah.
just you know
I mean,
it's
I feel like that movie that we're talking about, Walk the Line, is a very good portrayal um, of kind of Johnny Cash's at least
yeah.
early beginnings, because it doesn't really touch on his like early life or late life. It just kind of touches a little bit, mostly on that in between and his rise to stardom.
Yeah.
And kind of the struggles that he dealt with drug addiction and kind of coming out the other side of that, and as well as what is Reese Witherspoon? What is the character? What
Oh,
is her
June.
name? June. Thank you. I could not think of her name. I feel so awful. I couldn't think of it. But yeah, and June kind of helping him through all that, and it's but like and all that was the early 2000s, and the movie we were talking about was Clay Pigeons.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was '98,
But
and it
like,
was Clay Pigeons, and then Ridley Scott saw him, and that was like, that dude's got some talent. Let me hit him up. And then
I am.
Gladiator. Then immediately following that, like we said, there was Signs, which Shyamalan used him in, and then there was um, Brother Bear, Ladder 49, Hotel Rwanda, Walk the Line, like
He was in
all
Hotel Rwanda. I
apparently.
remember him being in Hotel Rwanda.
Yeah.
Wow.
So like that's there's just all of these movies from like 2000 to 2005 that are like these he was also in The Village. I forgot about that too, which is another Shyamalan movie.
Really? Yeah, I know it's
Um
another Shyamalan movie. I've never seen The Village. I just
it's
didn't.
really
I thought
good. So like
I
there
thought
were
Shyamalan
just
like
between 2000 from Gladiator to Signs to Brother Bear, The Village, Ladder 49, Hotel Rwanda, Walk the Line. It's just like his career just went through the roof. And he's won multiple Oscars because he won one for Walk the Line. He won an Oscar for, and then Joker, he got Best Actor for Joker this past year. So
really? I didn't realize he was. The only Oscar I paid attention to was Parasite, because I was really rooting for it.
Me too. That was awesome. I was so glad that they have you seen it yet?
No, I
asked you to see this like 2 months ago.
Yeah.
This was like episode 2 or 3, where I was like, "Yo, you need to watch this."
But the one thing I'd love to go back and hit Johnny Cash for a little bit. Because like there's some,
you know a lot. You'll probably know a lot more about it than I will. So.
Well, that's the thing about Johnny Cash is like a lot of people know different eras, but like he was on an episode of a show called Columbo, which I'm a really big fan of.
Isn't that like known as like one of the best like shows like ever written?
It's very highly lauded. Like,
okay, that's what I thought, because I've never seen it, but I've heard of it. Through other media, through other people that are in the media industry that I listen to. They're pretty much everyone's like, holy shit, Columbo, that was a show that no one will ever recreate, the magic behind that show.
Absolutely. The thing that you had your main character, Lieutenant Columbo, and he was in shows and movies on different networks from 1969 to 2003, and he was played by the same actor the whole time.
Wow.
And that actor was Peter Falk, who a lot of us know as the grandpa from Princess Bride.
Oh, okay.
That's what made him worldwide famous.
Gotcha. Okay.
And the format of Columbo was really interesting because a lot of detective shows were whodunits. Like, here's the mystery, let's find out who did it. Every episode of Columbo, except I think 1 or 2, like in the 90s, you start out seeing the murderer murder. You know who the murderer is, but the interesting part of the episode was, how is Columbo going to catch them?
Oh, that's neat.
What are they going to do to mess up?
That's a neat formula.
And like, you would think it would get stale after 20 years, but no, it's like they continually. And so like it became much like Batman was in the 60s. Like, if you were a big star celebrity, you wanted to be a murderer on Columbo.
Wow.
So that's what Johnny Cash did. Johnny Cash played a gospel singer on Columbo, and it was. And like he's one of the more sympathetic murderers, because sometimes you'll have murderers where it's like, wow, I wish, like, my favorite episode of Columbo is one of my favorite episodes of television of all time. It's an episode that has William Shatner in it.
William Shatner.
Yes, well, so here's the thing. Like, yeah, he has that reputation.
Yeah.
Where he, that kind of stuff.
The odd cadence. He's like he is the Christopher Walken of that period.
But the thing is, like, Shatner was, at least in that period for sure, a damn good actor.
Oh yeah.
And he plays an actor in that who he murders someone to save his career, essentially, so he can like go on to other projects. And he actually befriends Columbo, who is an avid watcher of the show he stars on. They become good friends and stuff, and then Columbo catches him, and William Shatner's like, yep, you got me. I'm not even gonna pretend like I thought I was doing the right thing at the time. And then Columbo says, if you would come with me, sir. And the last lines are Shatner saying, Lieutenant, you do me a great honor if you stopped calling me sir. Because like he sees Columbo as his equal, or as his better, which is really rare, because a lot of people talk to him. But again, Johnny Cash, again, super friendly to Columbo. It's really cool. There's like a plane crash in the episode. It's awesome. Yeah. Which there's a funny joke at the beginning where like one of the police officers investigating the plane crash says, like, have you ever been in a plane, Lieutenant? And he says, no, I'm afraid of heights. I don't even like being this tall. And like it was noted because like Johnny Cash, was like considered like one of those good old Southern boys and stuff. but he was also one of the only celebrities to like call for major prison reform in the United States.
Really?
Well, yeah, I mean, Folsom Blues.
Oh, of
Like
course.
whole,
Yeah,
that
of
whole
course.
thing.
I don't
Yeah,
know why I've never put two and two together.
yeah, that whole like he would go and play at prisons. He would go teach like people how to play guitar in prisons. He would much like you know how Gordon Ramsay has that reputation where he'll teach prisoners to cook, and then there was
Right.
like the guy who beat him in the onion chopping contest, so he hired him once he got up.
Yeah,
Johnny
yeah, yeah,
Cash was
yeah.
essentially doing that in, like the '60s and '70s. Um, and
That's
so,
cool.
and then
That's
there was
cool.
my one of my favorite Johnny Cash things, and then we can get off the I can get off the Johnny Cash train.
Oh, it's
But
fun.
there's a play about this, but it was called there was an instance called it was called the $4 Million Quartet, and the $4 Million Quartet was that there were four singers recording. I think it was the Capitol Records at the time.
I have
Let me
no
see.
idea. So
Yeah, I gotta.
you're on your own on this one.
Well, I've got. It's a famous picture. It's a famous picture. I'm just trying to look at the picture. I don't know, but so it was a very popular record label at the time, and Carl Perkins was recording, which a lot of people these days don't really know Carl Perkins, which is fine.
Never heard of him.
Johnny Lee Lewis was recording.
Heard of him. Yeah, heard of him.
Yeah, you know, Great Balls of Fire.
Yeah.
Johnny Cash was recording, and Elvis Presley was recording, and they all recorded together.
Nice.
And,
Jeez.
that album, and it was mainly like gospel and stuff because that was what they all knew. But like it was just like that was the only day all four were in the studio together, and like so they like literally it took decades for the album to be really album because like it wasn't like they planned it, they were just kind of
Right.
riffing off of each other, and like you can hear them in the tracks like talking to each other in the background and like welcoming and like that kind of, and there's a hit Broadway musical about it, and it's just really interesting because people have like gone through at the same acuity people will like dissect Beatles recording sessions like
Okay.
that recording session because like they'll like listen to the audio and be like, okay, this person's here, and like, okay, Johnny Cash takes over on this instrument from Elvis, and then like Elvis and Cash are harmonizing with each other, like that kind of stuff.
That's cool. I need to look this up because I didn't know about this.
Yeah, honestly, you could just like go to Wikipedia page, pick a decade, and it's like interesting stuff. Like when June Carter, when she passed away, his wife.
Yeah.
He was working on an album, and he pretty much said like, I got to finish the album, and then I'm going home. I'm going to June.
Yeah.
And he did. He finished the album, and he passed away. And I think Justin Timberlake won for
Yeah,
best album that
you
year.
talked about this a couple weeks ago when we were talking about music.
Yeah, and Timberlake
You
was
had
like, I
mentioned
don't
it.
deserve this Grammy.
Yeah, because he was nominated. What you said posthumously, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And that was the thing that was like really interesting is like that last album or the last couple albums he did were a lot of covers, like Hurt, which more recently was in the trailer for Logan, the last Wolverine movie.
Oh yeah.
And it's also over the credits, I believe. Was a Nine Inch Nails song that he covered.
Oh.
Personal Jesus was a Depeche Mode song that he covered, and like there's more examples of it and stuff too.
Right. Are you hopping off the Johnny Cash train now?
Yeah, you take away.
Well, we kind of talked about William Shatner. Were you a big Star Trek dude?
I have never seen an episode of Star Trek.
See, me neither. And it's one of those things that's like, it's right up my alley.
Yeah.
Right up my alley. And I've never seen a single one. I've seen the new movies. Like, I've seen not all the Chris Pine movies. I think I've seen only 2 of them. I don't think I saw the newest one. I saw Into Darkness, and I saw, of course, Star Trek. But and I loved them. They were awesome. They were phenomenal. But it's one of those things. Like, I know so many people, and it's one of those. Like I said, it's right up my alley. Never touched it. Never seen anything on it. It gets referenced all the time in the circles of things that I am interested in, and the kind of nerddom sort of, and all the time when Star Trek gets brought up, I'm always like, yeah, nah. One of my customers, the couple, they're an older, not necessarily older, but definitely like growing up in, kind of that time period. They're probably no older than our parents, honestly, but huge Trekkies. Like, they have golden records hanging up in their bonus room of like different soundtracks from it's freaking cool. And I asked them about it one time because I was like, I've always appreciated this. I don't know anything about it, but I can appreciate it. I'm like, this is cool. And they were like, we've actually
like looking at a Rembrandt painting. It's like, I don't know shit about Rembrandt.
Right.
It's a good painting.
Right. And so I commented on it actually the last time I was there, which was not less than a month ago, and I was like, I've always appreciated this wall you have, because it's like one wall in their bonus room. And then my customer, she was like, yeah, we've actually gotten rid of about like 3/4. We used to have an entire room of nothing but Star Trek memorabilia. They're like, we've sold a lot of it off. We used to be really huge Trekkies. And I was like, this is only like, these are like golden records. I know this shit ain't cheap. And they were like, we've sold off probably at least half of our, collection we had built up over the years. And I'm like, how much money did you have to like when you sold that? Because they've been doing a ton of renovations on their house too. Like, they're redoing their entire house, and it looks awesome. But it's like, I know renovations are a lot of work, and they're not cheap to do. And they're literally redoing everything. Like, floors, cabinets, walls. They're literally redoing everything. And I was like, good Lord. But, and then like...
Star Trek has always been something I've been parallel to. Because I just quick bullet points. My dad, huge Star Trek fan. And Next Generation fan. Loves them both. Never showed it to me as a kid. Like when I got older, I asked about it. And this was actually leading up, because a fun fact about me, I refused to watch Star Wars until I was like 10 years old. I didn't care. Yeah, I didn't care. I don't know.
Man, you were missing out.
I had seen several Star Trek movies at that point. Because I've seen some of the movies. And the movies are like I like a lot of the movies. And then we can get to that in a minute. But also, my favorite television show of all time is Lost in Space. Lost in Space was the direct competitor of Star Trek on television at the time. They were both on TV just as long as one another. But Lost in Space did not have the... so Lost in Space was very much like adventure. Star Trek was very much like morality.
Okay.
Like Star Trek was an intellectual show, while Lost in Space, although it had intellect, was far more like, let's have stuff. And
it was a lot easier to consume. It was a lot easier to consume.
Yes. Yeah. But that also means that when Star Trek kind of got its revival in '78 with the movie, and then later on in the '80s with Next Gen, nobody was interested in Lost.
Because that lasted all the way through the '90s too. Next Gen.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think there's been like 7 or 8 Star Trek shows.
Yeah. Well, because Patrick Stewart. Fun fact about Patrick Stewart: there are one of his things that he's always wished to do, and he kind of got to do a little bit of it. He turned down almost any animated role that you love in like the Disney Renaissance. Patrick Stewart probably turned it down. He turned down Cogsworth and Beauty and the Beast. He turned down
Frollo as well.
There was something in Aladdin, I believe he turned down. There was something in The Little Mermaid, I think, that he turned down, all because he was busy with The Next Generation, which I don't blame him. That show earned him a shit ton of money, and I mean, it's longevity versus a movie, but
and now he's even like he's in another Star Trek show starring him again now.
Picard, Star Trek Picard. Yeah,
I was really interested because I was reading
at
about,
like 90 years old.
Yeah, I was reading about he's in his late 70s or early 80s
I think
actually,
he's
but
80. Yeah, I think he's in his
yeah,
80s.
he's in his I think it's at least his 80s. But it was really interesting because like Gene Roddenberry, who is a creator of Star Trek, who again has like a really again there's a really interesting story with him I'll touch in after finishing this. Um, he uh he did not want Patrick Stewart because he was like he doesn't look rough and ready. You know, he didn't look like Kirk. And so like every time he was pushing for like a reason to not pick Patrick Stewart met him, and then eventually, and the casting people love Patrick Stewart. Yes, 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 yes.
How do you
And then
not love Patrick Stewart? Okay, like
um, it got to the point where Gene Roddenberry sent a pack of novels to Patrick Stewart and said like, "Hey, listen, these the Horatio Hornblower novels, which old English novels, and he says like these are the things I want you to play. So like you got to read up on these because if not, we're gonna have to find someone else." And Patrick Stewart sent him back and said, "I've got my own copies. Don't worry about it."
that's amazing. That's
Gene Roddenberry
hilarious.
was there's a lot I know about Star Trek. Again, periphery, but like I've never actually.
Right,
So
right.
Gene Roddenberry was involved in a plane crash, I think in Africa,
Oh shit.
early in his life, like when he was a young adult, and he actually most of the people survived the plane crash,
Oh wow.
and
That's
but like the middle of the African desert, just like just like so
ooh.
what are you gonna do?
Ooh.
But like he worked with other people and like banded together other nationalities, people who didn't speak English, people, all that
Right.
stuff, and they all worked together and managed to find them, get their way to the nearest village and like contact and be rescued.
Wow.
And a lot of people say like that's why Gene Roddenberry made Star Trek,
I was
because
gonna
Star
say the
Trek, for those of you who
inspiration for
don't
it.
know, well, yes, for those of you who don't know, was one of the most progressive shows in its era of television for
Mm-hmm.
several reasons. One, during the height of the Cold War, it had a Russian character,
Yep.
who a positive Russian character. It
African
had a
American.
prominent Asian character. It had a
Yep.
prominent African American character.
Yep.
And that African Nichelle Nichols, who I've actually had the very very good honor to meet because she's towards the end of her life. I mean, almost all of them are. Half of
I
them
was
are gone.
about to say
Um,
most of them
yeah,
are at least in their
yeah.
70s
Scotty
now.
Bones and Spock are all gone.
I was gonna say we. I
But
was gonna say we already lost Leonard Nimoy, which was that was
yeah,
sad
that
when
was
that
a
happened.
yeah. But she was originally not going to accept the role on Star Trek because she was like, that's a lot of pressure for me. And
Right.
she was talking to her friend, and the friend was just like, well, I mean, are they going to cast a black woman if you don't take the role? And she's like, there's no guarantee of that. And the friend was like, you gotta do it because this isn't about you. Like you being on that television set's not going to be about you. It's about every girl watching um, that like screen and seeing you. And that friend, little famous guy, uh, uh, at the time, still famous, quoted regularly, um, Martin Luther King Jr. Um, and so, like, that was like, it was like, it just, if you were on, you just wanted to have something to do with Star Trek. Um, and and then Gene Roddenberry, like, well, I don't know. There was the composer for the original Star Trek theme, and then Gene Roddenberry wrote lyrics to the theme, even though they were never used, so he could get half the royalties. But my favorite cover of the Star Trek theme using the lyrics, or just in general, my favorite cover was actually done by oh shoot, oh what's their name? Oh shoot,
You got to give me someone to work with. I
the
don't.
the
I don't know. Oh shoot.
the greatest song ever, but this is just a tribute.
Oh,
Beelzebubs.
Tenacious D.
Yeah, Tenacious D. They did a cover of the
Good
Star
old
Trek theme
Jack
with the
Black and Kevin. No. Shoot, I forget his partner's name, but it's Jack Black and his
Jack Black and William McKinley, formerly thought to be assassinated president of the United States. William McKinley. The Star Trek the cover they do is excellent.
and then also speaking of kind of being progressive, I had to look it up just to make sure, but they also had a prominent female science fiction writer in the 60s for media for the show, which was unheard of in the industry.
It's still unheard
I know.
of.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, especially in the '60s, though, like for Gene to be like, here's a female writer just because we need to have. I think he even said we needed to have. We need to have one. If we're going to be writing for female characters, he was one of the few people ever in Hollywood's history that has done that, because for anyone that is unaware, Hollywood is still very kind of bringing it back, circling a little bit back to what we talked about last week. Hollywood is not great when it comes to equality, and I'm gonna leave it at that.
That's a whole other thing to dissect.
That is, I think me and you especially could dive into that, and because that's, like you said, still going on to this day.
Our lens as would be able to take advantage of that system,
right?
We would not be like, if you're watching us on YouTube and you see any similarities between us, those similarities are the things that Hollywood really likes about people.
Yep.
So,
I know.
Start Star Trek because I was like, man, it just has so much history. There's so much shows. And
I think that's why I haven't started it either, and that's also one of the same reasons. Kind of tying it to a different science fiction show that you are a huge fan of, and has gotten bigger popularity.
It's just like the person who I was talking to was like, Jeffrey, how many episodes of Doctor Who have you seen? And I was like all of them. And they were just like, Jeffrey, how many episodes of Doctor Who are there? And I was like,
enough.
800.
Yeah. And that's one of the same reasons, honestly, because I've talked to you about this in the past. I've seen episodes of the newer, like the new Doctor, is that kind of, because there's the New Who. Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, 1980. So from 63 to 89 was Classic Who.
Yeah.
96 was the Doctor Who TV movie. 2005 to present day is New Who.
Okay, yeah. So I've seen episodes and clips of different New Who. I've seen David Tennant. I've seen Matt Smith. I've seen the new guy. I haven't seen any episodes of the girl yet. Yeah, I have not seen any episodes with her as the Doctor, but I've seen episodes here and there, and every single episode I've seen, I absolutely loved. Whether or not it made sense to me, I was like, but I've enjoyed it. It's been something that's very entertaining for me to watch, and then I'll be like, this could be something I'd get into, and then I look at its history, and I'm like, yeah, no, I'm good.
It's really intimidating, and that kept me from it for a real long time too. But I was lucky enough because it was in 2012 where people were saying like, oh, Doctor Who is turning 50 next year, and I was like, well, that's a momentous thing.
That was Matt Smith, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I was like, you know what? I want to be caught up. And so like I kicked ass.
Ooh.
And so by Doctor Who's 50th anniversary on November 23rd, 2013, I was entirely caught up, and was able to enjoy the 50th anniversary special. And again, I could go for. I remember I have a friend who said, she's like, oh, I don't know much about Doctor Who. Can you give me a summary? my brief summary clocked in at 2 hours and 46 minutes.
I was about to say it's probably at least 2 hours.
It was because like I was just, there's just so much. But anyway,
right.
Again, Doctor Who is another series that's been praised, and not as much as Star Trek because it's not done as much as Star Trek.
Yeah.
But of its diversity and
progressiveness behind it.
Yeah.
Especially like I know when like you said when what was her name, the actor that's playing the newest Doctor?
Jodie Whittaker.
Jodie Whittaker.
Jodie Whittaker.
Sorry, Jodie Whittaker. I remember I heard about that, and I was like, wow, that was huge when that happened, and people were like, holy cow, we get a female Doctor. That was absolutely massive, and it only took them almost 60 years to do.
Yeah.
But
Well, it's really interesting because again,
have they had an African American doctor yet?
Yeah. Okay. So the latest season has caused a lot of freaking controversy because I'm not going to spoil anything for you. I'm not going to spoil anything
I'm
for you.
not a
I'm just
huge
going to give you.
spoiler person anyway, so even if you
That's true.
did,
That's true. So
yeah.
way
So
back.
heads up for listeners, there might be
Yeah,
some.
if you want to talk again, I'm gonna be as vague as I
Yeah,
possibly can.
yeah.
Well, yeah. So way back during the early '70s, someone proposed, what if the first Doctor, William Hartnell, we see, was not the first Doctor? He's just the first one we saw.
Oh, okay.
And there was an instance where the fourth Doctor, Tom Baker, who's a scarf, um,
Right.
he was being like he was stuck in the matrix of the Time Lords, which is essentially just a space-time computer, and it was like it wanted to kill him, but he used his life experience to overload the matrix because he'd been alive for centuries, you know. And then it went back and he went to the third Doctor, second Doctor, first Doctor, and then it went backwards to faces we had not seen yet. That eventually pushed forward in the late 70s and mid 80s to something called the Cartmel Master Plan, where the showrunner at the time, Andrew Cartmel, was like, oh yeah, we know that the Time Lord Society was founded by two figures. It was actually figures. But
Three,
one of them
okay.
has remained mysterious the whole time.
Gotcha.
And the push was that third figure
Was African American.
the Doctor. No.
Oh.
The Doctor.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
There have been plenty of African American characters on Doctor Who.
Yeah, I know there have, but the Doctor himself has not been, correct?
Well, themself now, because it's Jodie's female. So just when
okay.
referring to the Doctor, it's a themself thing. Just to get your verbiage right. Again, I'm not picky about it, but like
is she African American too?
No, she's not. She's white.
Okay.
But bear with me. So
yeah.
So then those kind of plot threads never got picked up by any other showrunner, and they were ignored. And then there was a recurring theme in the most recent season of Doctor Who, where Jodie Whittaker meets this Black English lady, and they're helping, and then the Black English lady essentially breaks a watch. And Time Lords could store their genetic code inside of watches and become human to disguise themselves. But they would lose all their memories. There was a 2-part episode with David Tennant that's really, really good, where he's a human.
I love him too.
It's awesome.
I love him too.
Yeah. She breaks the watch right as Jodie Whittaker is digging where there's supposed to be like the thing to save both of them, like there's supposedly a weapon underneath the ground, and she digs and she finds the TARDIS.
Oh.
But it's not her TARDIS, because her TARDIS is like miles that way.
Oh.
And she turns around and I think Joe, I can't remember the actress's name, but like introduces herself as the Doctor. And Jodie's like, you can't be no. And then so there's a common thing when doctors meet with each other. The most recent Doctor will be like, I remember being you. This is the first time two doctors have met each other, and they were like, you have to be in my future because I don't remember you. And she's like, no, because I don't remember you, so you're in my future. And so
that's trippy.
So there were two doctors, two TARDISes, blah 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 blah, and then like big mystery. Okay, cool. That episode also had the return of Captain Jack Harkness, who was a bisexual time travel Barrowman, who is I've met several times, partied with several times.
Nice,
real cool dude. Like he was introduced in 2005 as like a bisexual character. So like,
that's cool.
2005 bisexual.
Yeah, which was big for 2005.
We get to the finale-ish, sort of, and one of the Doctor's recurring enemies, the Master, whose previous regeneration was a woman for the first time, and whose current regeneration is a Middle Eastern man.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he does excellently. But says like, hey, I figured out the secret of the Time Lords. Like I figured out what I figured it out, and I had to kill them all because I was pissed. And it was like, what, really? And so he kills all the Time Lords. And that's not that big of a deal because the time been like killed off and brought back like 3 times in the show's history. So it's like, well, they might be able to undo this, but like it doesn't matter. Even if they don't, it's whatever. But he tells the story about how there was a race of people that lived on the planet Gallifrey, which is where the Time Lords are from, before the Time Lords. And one of them went to this universal barrier, and there was a child at the universal barrier, and this person wanted to study the child, the scientist did. And then at one point, the child got knocked off of a cliff, and the child regenerated. And they were like, "Wow, that's." And the scientist was blown away because I was like, "You can stop death." So they find the sequencing in their genes that causes regeneration, implanted it within all of them, creating the Time Lords. They set themselves having a limit. So, like, after 13, you die, but you can be granted endless regenerations and stuff. Gotcha. And then the child's memory was wiped. That child, as we learned, was the Doctor. That's why the Doctor is so odd compared to the rest of Time Lords. That's why the Doctor finds themselves in the center of all this stuff, because Jodie is put in the Matrix as well. She overloads the Matrix, and we get scenes of that, the first Matrix thing, and the old faces, and all that stuff.
That's cool.
And so, but a lot of people, like, I love it. I was like, awesome. Like,
that's super cool.
Things from the 70s and like saying that, oh no, it actually happened. Some people were so mad.
Really?
Oh, people were. Well, that's every showrunner of Doctor Who since New Who has been eventually kicked off of Twitter for their not kicked off, but like driven off of Twitter because of their
writing choices.
The writing choices. And like, so like that's what happened.
It's really unfortunate.
It really does suck. But like the new guy was the showrunner for Chris Chibnall was the showrunner for Broadchurch, which is where
I've heard of that.
Yes, it's excellent. It's 3 seasons, 10 episodes each on Netflix.
You may have told me about it. Okay, yeah, that's why it sounds familiar. I'm like, where have I heard that? Oh, I think it was when I came over that one time and you were like, you should check this out. I have not checked it out, so sorry.
That's okay. It's still on Netflix. I'm not worried about it. But like David Tennant in it, and that's where Chris Chibnall became met like Jodie Whittaker. And like that's why he was like, oh, you need to be the next Doctor because that. So
that's cool.
Yeah. And again, I'm gonna step back because Doctor Who, I can.
I was about to say, one thing I don't want to dive too much into it, but we did mention it, the kind of the way Hollywood works. Like last year, I know with the Oscars, was actually very controversial because there was.
Do you mean like the
2019 Oscars? 2019, because there was not a single movie nor actor that, other than, of course, you have your female actress award, but there was not a movie or actor that was prominently African American, and nor the movies that were nominated, with the exception of Joker, had.
Well, Joker was a 2020's Oscar.
No, that was 2019.
Yes.
We're in 2020, dude.
Yeah. No, I know. You said last year's Oscars, and I asked if you meant the 2019 Oscars. The 2019. Okay. I see what the problem is. I'm talking, when I say 2019 Oscars, I mean like the ceremony from 2019.
Oh, okay. No, yeah. So So 2020 for yes, that is what I am referring to. With the exception of Joker, none of them had, especially African Americans. And then I know there was a lot of controversy that around. I haven't seen it, but I've heard absolutely incredible things from anyone I've ever met that has seen it of Little Women. and how Little Women deserved to at least get a nomination, and it didn't even get a single thing. And because I haven't seen it, it's a movie I do want to see, just because I've actually I heard Florence Pugh did an amazing job, and I saw Midsummer, which Ari Aster is. I have a lot of opinions on Ari Aster. Not that he's a bad. He's not a bad director writer. I just think his.
Was he the one that did? Because I remember
was he
Witch or Hereditary?
He did Hereditary. He may have done Witch as well.
No, Witch. So it's the same production company, Witch. Because like last year we got Midsummer and Lighthouse.
Yes.
And they were the second ones for the Witch director and the Hereditary director. Just.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So Ari Aster was Hereditary and Midsommar. And I've seen both. And I have strong opinions. Hereditary definitely being a lot better than Midsommar. My problem with Midsommar, and as well as a little bit of Hereditary, Ari Aster, I know people give him a shit ton of credit, and I'm not saying he's bad. What I'm saying is he focuses way too much on the grotesque and macabre, and that's almost like what I noticed watching both of those movies, and less so in Hereditary. Hereditary is definitely less so like this, but Midsommar especially was just how close to the line can I get of just being so brutal to it just I wasn't really impressed with Midsommar. I know it was a huge movie of the summer, and a lot of people were like, "Oh my god!"
It's really interesting because I've not seen Midsummer yet. But I do own it. So like it's one I really
okay. So you're gonna have to watch it then.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch it. But like Jonathan was over last night, and again, like I think this should be a conversation we definitely have with at least him here as well.
Yeah, because he likes Ari Aster, right?
As well. Yeah.
Yeah.
He loves Midsummer. Well, I don't know. He really prefers Midsummer over Hereditary. I personally have seen Hereditary twice. I saw it in theaters. I saw it streaming. And I have a lot of problems with it.
Yeah, see, and I know a lot of people are like, "Oh my god, I didn't see the ending." They telegraphed that ending. They basically put it on a platter in front of you.
It's the thing. Like I told Jonathan yesterday, my issue with Hereditary is it does three things that modern horror movies are very guilty of. One, blowing their load with the scariest thing in the first 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Like the kid getting her head
clicked off. I will say when that happened, I had to leave the room. Like I actually, cause that when you say nauseating, that was one of those moments in a movie where I actually had to like step away for a moment because it was just nauseating.
And like that whole sequence is terrifying.
Yes.
But the thing that makes it so terrifying is that it can actually happen.
Well, if you look at the way cars, it's actually very unlikely that would ever happen. You would have to drive very close to a pole for that to happen.
But he was under the influence.
I guess that is, because he was under the effects of the... I didn't even...
Like that, I thought that's how I reasoned it in my head. I was that's the only reason.
It could be, but it's still because I've watched kind of breakdowns on that movie.
Oh yeah. I'm not again like I when I say that can happen, I compare that to mom using a piano wire to chop her own head off.
It's just.
And like the rest of the movie didn't get that intense for me.
Yeah.
Another thing it did is it does a lot of modern horror movies substitute the idea of like mental health with it's just ghosts.
Yeah.
Where you don't know which one. Like Lights Out had that as a problem. Although Lights Out has one of the most kick-ass like beat the monster moments. I watched it with my brother, and there's a scene where like the monster's about to break a guy in half in front of his car, and then it's the one where like the short film where you turn on the light. There's nothing there. Turn off the light. There's a shadow.
Right.
It's the feature-length version of that
I never watched it, but it looked the trailer.
Way better.
Okay, the trailer fucked me up because I watched the trailer and was like,
the trailer's just the short film. That's the thing. You know?
Oh, was it really?
Yeah, and like that's how it opens.
Okay.
But the monster's about to like break someone in half in their garage, and the person like clicks their key to like unlock their car, so the headlights flash, and so the monster disappears, and like he gets dropped and he like runs away. But that's like the best part of the movie. So it's not worth
yeah.
you know.
Yeah, because
I think I own that one as well. But the worst thing I would say Hereditary did, well, the thing that bugs me the most, I think the mental health thing is the worst thing.
Yeah.
Is that, and it's something that The Conjuring is also guilty of. And I love The Conjuring. But
Dude, the Conjuring movies are actually fantastic. Yeah. I love both of them. They're both really good.
Yes, both are very good. Is that the third one comes out, I think, in October.
See, I feel like they should have stopped with 2, though. I mean, we'll see, because they've got a good thing going so far. But I will say the second one wasn't as good as the first, but it was still very, very good. It was still very good.
That whole movie universe, because like I own all 3 Annabelle movies.
I don't acknowledge those movies. They don't exist.
I own both Conjuring movies, but like just to say, like there are very few movies and series where I was just like, well, complete the series. I don't want to own The Nun. I saw The Nun in theaters, and I was like, you know what?
Yeah, never watched it. I've watched one Annabelle movie, and it was so bad. I was like, yeah, no, I'm not going to worry about it.
Annabelle 2, which is a prequel, much better than Annabelle or Annabelle 3. But Annabelle 3 takes place in the Warrens' home, and like the Warrens are characters in that and it's still not good. Anyway, I'm a big Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson fan.
They're great. They're fantastic.
But the thing Hereditary and Conjuring did is that they introduce things early on in the movie that are usually sound cues to be creepy later that are not natural in the beginning of the movie. In Conjuring, it's
the clapping.
Marco Polo like that.
Yeah.
I've never seen that, never heard of that. Maybe it's a regional thing. I don't know. But like that's the first time and I've heard a lot of people who watch it say like I've never seen it. Like that's a cool way to do it. But like it was clearly set up to be creepy later. And in Hereditary, it's
yeah.
It's like they don't give her because like they don't say that she has any sort of like tick or anything where she does that or she just likes doing that or anything. She just does it so it can be scary later. And like and me as someone, I analyze horror films way more than any other film because I'm like, what do you think is going to scare me? Like, what do you think is going to scare me? I just immediately catch on to that shit.
See, also, I'm the same. I analyze. Do what?
With the purchase of 20th Century Fox, Disney now owns the Alien series, the Predator series, the Terminator series, and the RoboCop series. And so just like do the right thing, Disney.
Just give us one massive crossover event.
Do it.
It's like we don't care how good or bad it's going to be, because it's going to be one or the other. If you do it, there's not going to be a middle ground. It's either going to be great or
RoboCop versus Terminator. Like we almost got RoboCop versus Terminator because they were both owned by the same company, Orion, from the get-go.
Yeah.
Like since the 80s, they've been owned by the same company. Yeah. But then they were like, well, let's reboot RoboCop first. That sank, and Terminator did whatever. Oh god, I'm not going to go on my Terminator rant. That's a whole other.
See, I've never seen a Terminator movie. I've never seen a single one.
The first two,
fantastic. Yeah. I mean, I know like a lot of references from it, like the thumbs up, like when he's melting and he's just like thumbs up.
But what was that? What was that game?
Castle Crashers.
Yeah. I knew you would know.
I love that game. It's so good. It's such a good game.
But like, there are things about 3, Salvation, Genesis, and Dark Fate I like, but there are also many things about them I hate. Yeah. And just to show you like about how like memorable these movies are, last night when I was talking to Jonathan about the Terminator franchise, which is why it's also fresh in my head, I was like, what was the new Terminator called? Terminator Judgment Day, Terminator something? And then Jonathan was like, well, have you seen it? I was like, I own it. Like I've seen it and owned it, and he's like, and you don't remember the title, and I'm like, no.
Dang.
But I remembered they announced it was Terminator Dark Fate, and I got pissed because that's an awful title. I hate that title so much.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that sucks. But then the movie starts, and the first 4.5 minutes of the movie, like including like the credit, like logos and stuff, kick ass. Some of the best Terminator stuff of this century, and they're the best 4.5 minutes of the movie.
Oh, oof. Ooh, ouch. That's rough.
And it sucks because the Dark Fate had so much going for it. Like the first 40 minutes are almost entirely in Spanish. All three leads were female, and one of them being a person of color.
Yeah.
Like just like a lot of really progressive shit, but the movie sucked.
Yeah, it never helps when the movie's bad.
Like, Skynet built the Terminators with working penises because there's a Terminator who has a kid, but it's not, and it's Arnold, but it's not clear if like it's Arnold's kid or Arnold adopted the kid. They don't ever really make it. So it's like, does Skynet give the Terminators dicks? Like we've already seen their dicks in the movies, but like working dicks, you know?
That's a great question that I cannot answer.
Fucking Genesis, Matt Smith's in that one, Emilia Clarke's in that one, Jay Courtney's in that one, J.K. Simmons is in that one.
Wow.
Fucking
damn.
Arnold Schwarzenegger's in that one. It sucks.
What a cast, though. Holy shit, what a cast.
Helena Bonham Carter, Bryce Dallas Howard, Sam Worthington, Christian Bale, Anton Yelchin. It sucks.
Damn.
It's like, it's not fair.
Damn. That's where that's where a writing issue comes in.
Yeah,
so while we're talking about kind of like 90s kind of the sci-fi stuff,
yeah,
I've never seen the franchise. You knew where I was going with this.
You
knew where I was going with this.
Yeah,
I've never seen it, so I was gonna ask what your opinion is on the new one, because the Wachowski, one of the sisters, is writing and directing. It's not the pair, but
I didn't realize one of them was going to be attached.
Yep. So one of the sisters has come back for the third or fourth. Fourth. Yeah.
Unless you ask hardcore fans, and they'll say that.
Right.
Because the third one, the actual third one, doesn't count.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. But yeah, the I think it's Wachowski, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So I forget which Wachowski sister is coming back, but yeah, she is writing and directing the fourth one, so we'll see. I've seen bits and pieces of the first one. I've never seen it start to finish. I've never seen the second or third one.
There's so many references all over the place.
Right,
you know? Like
exactly.
Blue pill, red pill,
right.
Like, like I know kung fu. Like,
there is no spoon.
Yeah.
There is no spoon.
See, the thing is, also, the third Bill and Ted movie is being filmed as well.
Oh no!
Both of them reprising their roles.
Oh god!
It's another time travel franchise. I have no idea what goes on in that movie.
Oh, good old Keanu.
But like again, I've heard that the first one's really good and the second one's fun. So
yeah. I mean,
I think I own the first one on tape though. So, yay!
Yeah, because it's Keanu and who else?
Oh god, what's
I don't remember the other guy's name.
Jeff Daniels? I don't think it's Jeff Daniels. I
don't think
that's
so.
Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah, that's Dumb and Dumber. That's Jeff Daniels and Jim Carrey in Dumb and Dumber.
Have you seen that? Alex Winter.
I don't even know that.
Have you seen that interview with Keanu? It was someone interviewing him at last year's oh my god, what's the big gaming convention?
E3.
Because Cyberpunk.
Yeah, you got an, and then someone was like, "I love," and he's like, "No, you're great."
Yeah. Well, that's cool. But there was someone interviewing him because they announced the new Bill and Ted, and he says, "Well, what do you think? What are you going to be able to step into the role of Bill after all these years?" And Keanu just goes, "I played Ted," and the reporter's like, he's just like, "Yep, you know what? I can't. I'm not."
That's amazing.
Like, really? Like you couldn't even like Google search the movie because it comes up.
That's
And
funny.
it was like I felt so bad for the guy because I was like, imagine finally getting to meet Keanu Reeves and fucking like blowing your load all over the
Yeah.
fucking interview.
I feel like Keanu is really the president we need right now. He is literally like America's dad. Everybody loves him, and I don't think he
Everyone
could
wants
do.
him. So he's avoided the MCU a lot, but everyone
Yeah.
wants him. You know what the big popular character they want him to play is?
I've heard it. You're gonna tell me, and I'm gonna kick myself because I can't think of it at the moment.
Yeah, you are gonna kick yourself. Moon Knight.
That's yeah. I've heard that. I think he would do good. He's because I'm not gonna hate on Keanu. He has his niche, and he is very, 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 very good at his niche. Outside of that, give or take, he's.
I don't know. There's. I think right now he's kind of on the like we mentioned this a few weeks ago.
He
the
is
Bill
on the
Murray
upswing
train,
right now.
where it's just his it's just his name, like putting
Yeah.
him in the movie, which is really funny because the Keanu Reeves movie that I most recently saw in theaters was Key and Peele's Keanu.
No.
Do you remember that one? That
No.
coming out? It's I think Jordan Peele has a cat and he names it Keanu after Keanu Reeves, and like it gets kidnapped and like they gotta that's like
Oh no.
it's
It's a
Peele
pa-
for fun.
it's a
Yeah.
it sounds like it's a parody of John Wick. Have you seen John Wick?
No, I have not, but I know what,
So his dog
I know
dies,
I
and
get-
that's
I
why
get-
he goes ballistic.
So like I don't know, I never thought about it that way. But Keanu Reeves does voice the cat Keanu in a dream sequence.
That's
where
amazing.
He keeps like dropping references to his other movies, and like it's
I love
really
Keanu
funny 'cause, like,
Reeves so much.
He references like the Matrix like 3 times, and by the end of it, Jordan Peele's like, "Yeah, Matrix, I got it, Matrix." And so
That's amazing. See, it's small things like that, because I think he embraces it too. Like, he knows. He is fully aware of his persona, and what's funny is it's not even a persona. You know, he's actually a dude, and I've heard this from
chill, dude.
like he'll take the subway in New York just cause. Like,
Well, he's also he's it recently came out in the past couple of years that like since the late '90s he's been donating millions to children's hospitals, but
like
he's just not
he's
told anyone.
such a quality like. I have heard nothing but amazing things, and you mentioned E3 last year with the Cyberpunk 2077 announcement, and he walks out, and then he acted like on the screen they animated the mocap that they did of him, and everyone just goes ballistic, and then the trailer ends, and he himself walks out, and the place just goes absolutely what they can't contain themselves. Someone said something like.
Whoa.
Yeah, and then someone shouts like in the front row, like, "Oh my God, you're great!" And he goes, "No, you're great!" And he just points at him, and it's just like, what a dude! Like, what a solid dude.
Now, if Cyberpunk 2077 is ever going to come out, that's a whole different discussion.
I mean, a game I've been waiting for like 3 years now is supposed to come out later this month. I think.
Which one are you talking about?
Well, I think it probably got delayed again, but The Last of Us Part 2.
Oh yeah. No, I think I've not seen any delays. I've seen it like I saw the most recent thing where there's Last of Us Part 2, and then like,
I'm so ready for that game, dude. Have you seen or played anything of the first one?
The originals, I know the story, but I've not played it. I know.
Oh my God! At least watch it. Like, watch a playthrough of it. You want to know a story that will freaking rip your heart out, dude.
It's another.
Oh
it's
my
another story
God!
Of, like inclusivity and stuff, you know, and like,
back to sci-fi, because technically zombies are sci-fi.
Horror sci-fi.
They have you, while we're talking of The Last of Us, did you see that? I believe it was HBO is making a show of The Last of Us, and I'm very excited for it.
Yes, because I think people were saying that the guy who voices Joel should play Joel.
Yeah,
Because
dude,
it's just like,
well, that's the one thing I am worried about. It is a great IP to delve into with a show, and you could do so many things with a show for it. The thing that worries me is they're gonna try and do an Ellie Joel story. I think that is a terrible idea. I think you use the IP.
From what I've seen, the video game nails it.
But they do.
You created a world where all these stories can be told.
You would not be able to replicate the chemistry that Ashley Johnson and I forget it's
Mark Hamill.
No, The Last of Us. Google. Do what?
I was just saying Laura
Bailey. Don't distract me. I'm typing things in. It's come on. I gotta find it. Come on. Give me a page I can work with. It's Troy Baker. God, I could not think of his name.
Yes, I actually
did. The chemistry between Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson, who do the voice acting and mocap for both Ellie and Joel, and it's actually when they were casting, because they casted Troy Baker first, like they had their Joel, they knew who their Joel was going to be, and they were trying to find their Ellie, and of course, casting very much for a game like that, very similar to normal casting auditions. You go through tons of people. There's a whole bunch of people that come in, yada yada. They go through. They had already gone through a ton of people, and then Ashley Johnson, I think she had already been having like a really bad day, because I've heard interviews of her kind of process into going into that IP, and like before they even shot their scene together, Troy Baker realized that she just was having not a great day, and he literally asked her, "Hey, can I give you a hug?" Like, just went up to her and was just gave her a big old hug, and she felt so much better. And then she did her perform, the audition with Troy as Ellie, and as soon as that happened, all of the people that were involved with the project were like, "We have our Ellie. Like, we have her. Like, we're not gonna find better." And if you are familiar with watched it, you cannot recreate the chemistry that those two have, and it's a very real chemistry, because the two people, they actually mocapped the scenes together. They did not like a traditional video game where they would do one person and the other. They did all of the scenes
too, because the computer can mess up on the track, so that's really impressive.
Yeah, they did all of the scenes actually together in a studio. Both of them mocapped. Awesome. So it's a very real chemistry between the characters, and it comes out on I hate to say on screen, because it's it's not Hollywood, but it is still on screen. So, but it comes out, and it would be very, very hard to recreate that chemistry, and that chemistry is what makes the bond between those two characters and that storyline as strong and as moving as it is. And that's what, because like I said earlier, that IP, you could do stories on the Fireflies. You could do stories of when it first broke out. There's a time skip of.
That's how the game starts.
Yeah,
Joel has a daughter and a wife at the beginning of the game.
Well, just the daughter, not the wife isn't there. It's just the daughter. Yeah. Okay. And he's trying to.
That whole.
And there's like a 20-year time skip. Do a story in that 20 years. Even don't do Joel and Ellie. If you want to do Joel, do Joel. You could easily do Joel and Tess and the Fireflies and his, journey through the city, because there's like this sort of civil war thing going on, as well as because they're not really zombies. It's this fungus that actually takes over the brain. So to say it's zombies, it's not even zombies or an infected. It's these spores and this fungus that causes people to go insane.
Cordyceps.
Yeah,
it's really interesting because that's a real thing in the real world.
Yeah.
That fungus, but it's not as advanced to hack a human.
No.
Fun fact about the Last of Us universe. Naughty Dog's other major IP is Uncharted.
I was gonna say Uncharted. I mean, you've got Uncharted. There's what other Naughty Dog is there? Is it just Uncharted? Oh, I'm thinking of Rockstar. Never mind. I was thinking Rockstar.
So during the development of Last of Us, I think Uncharted 4 was also being concurrently developed.
It was either 3 or 4. It was either 3 or 4. It may have been 3 because The Last of Us came out in 2013.
Yes,
it's almost PS3. 10 years old at this point.
It came out before the PS4 was even released.
Yep. It was a PS3 game originally.
But they would put just to show text, fucking what's the patterns? Not patterns, but it doesn't matter. To make it look like a video game, to have newspaper stuff, they would put their own little images and stuff on there. One of the images was not taken out. And because of that, it talks about how in America there is a fungus that's infecting people in a newspaper in the Uncharted world. So everyone's so Last of Us is the sequel to the Uncharted series,
right?
Yeah. Fun fact, just you were talking about auditions and selling auditions and stuff, and there's really cool stories about auditions for all sorts of things.
Oh yeah.
My personal favorite one is for E.T. The kid who played Elliot. He was auditioning for role the boy in E.T. in front of every Spielberg, and the role he had to sell was him saying goodbye to E.T. And he did the breakdown and everything, and he was sobbing, and everyone else started crying, and Spielberg was crying, and then he kept going, and Spielberg said, "Cool it, kid, you got the job."
That's amazing. So speaking of this, reminded me, you were talking about child acting. I think someone that is going to be absolutely huge, and because just as a child actor, he is phenomenal and has been quoted by other fellow actors many times. Jacob Tremblay, who, have you ever seen the movie either Wonder? Have you seen Wonder?
I know Wonder.
Have you seen just Room? With have you seen that? Yes, with Brie Larson.
But I think I've seen something with him in it though, because
have you seen Dr. Sleep? Did you watch Dr. Sleep last year?
Oh,
dude, come on. So Jacob Tremblay plays the kid in Wonder. He is the kid in Room, and he plays a minor character in Dr. Sleep. But in all of those performances are absolutely incredible for a child actor. And in one of the scene kind of character he's a part of in Dr. Sleep. Do you know anything about Dr. Sleep, or do you care of spoilers?
Yeah, I'm pretty. I know the.
Okay, so you know that they're pseudo vampires. That's the best way I can explain it. They're not actually vampires, but there's this group of essentially hunters that hunt down people that have the shine. If anyone who is unfamiliar, Dr. Sleep is a sequel of The Shining, Stephen King, yada yada yada. Stephen King stuff. And in these hunters track down this kid that's apparently he plays Little League Baseball, but he never misses when he's swinging a bat. Never. He's never missed a bat. He bats like a perfect. And so they're like, something's a little uncanny about that, and you find out he's got just a little bit of shine to him. It's not like too terrible, but these hunters track him down and murder him and consume him alive, essentially. They consume his essence alive. And in that scene, it is a brutal scene. And I mean, it shows just about everything except, you can see the blood splatters, but of course you don't see him ripping apart a kid. But like the screams are so real. And in that scene, the kid did such a good job selling the torment and torture and just horribleness that was happening to him, that the other actors that were consuming him felt uneasy. And then when the scene was over, the kid got up as if everything is fine, and was like kind of like dusted himself off and was like, all right, let's do it again. And they were just like, what? Like, they were so the other actors were very, very uneasy because they were like, that was really uncanny.
That sort of happened to me in a play I was in once. Again, not really, but like it's just the way the circumstances led up to it. There was a point where I had to have my throat cut, and so so we had to get like a sugar glass bottle and then like break it along with a blood pack around my. And I really enjoyed that scene because it allowed me. Not only did I have my throat cut, my character hallucinated his dead mother, and then collapsed on top of the remaining broken glass. And then I just the lights went out, and I just popped up and walked backstage, and everyone was looking at me really, really tense. And I was like, "What's the matter?" Because the guy who was to cut my throat thought that he was pressing too hard, and he thought by my reaction when he was pressing that he actually did cut my throat.
Oh,
in no way was it nearly the same level of a kid getting torn apart.
Right.
Or do I think I'm really that good of an actor? But it's really funny because we came backstage, and the stage manager, they took a wipe and started wiping my neck, and everyone was really, really tense, and they were freaking me out, and I was like, shit, did my throat get cut?
Right.
But it didn't.
You start feeling around
yeah, where it's
can make sure you can't put your finger through your throat, you're everything's solid, okay, good, skin's still intact, we're all set. So
I think a really good, because we talked about a lot of, this episode was mainly talking about things that either one of us hadn't seen or both of us hadn't seen.
Right.
That kind of stuff.
And we talked
I think it would be
we talked about
really
directors, actors,
a
a lot of film stuff.
And Star Trek and Doctor Who and The Matrix and Cyberpunk and E3.
We did talk a lot of sci-fi, but if go on.
Maybe for next week, and we can put this in the chat for anyone who wants to join in, is that instead of it just being a manipulated conversation, but we can all pick one thing where it's what, a movie or preferably a movie, because it's a lot easier to do than a whole television show in a week, or a video game in a week, but maybe a movie or watch a playthrough of a video game or something, and that was completely new to us.
I've got one already.
Right?
I've got one for next week. I've got one in the bag because it's something that was pointed out to me, and I recently have replayed this video game. It's an older game. I'm not going to mention anything right now, but it's actually I'll say this. There is a Star Wars movie and a video game that are both very, very, very good. One, the movie is very good. I'm not going to say which movie. And then the video game, they're very, very, very similar stories. And they are phenomenal, and they pull at your heartstrings in a way that's just great. So I've got my thing for next week.
Once we end the episode, I want to take my stab at it because I feel like I
Okay.
might.
Okay. So
Um,
this is probably a good stopping point then. So
yeah, I
if
think so.
you
Yeah,
guys have enjoyed, you can find us Spotify, Apple, iTunes, Google Music. We're on Stitcher.
YouTube.
We're on Stitcher as well. And check out our YouTube channel if you want to watch it. It's the Acquaintances Podcast. This YouTube channel as is. Right now we've got episodes 8 and 9. We'll get this one up as well. And leave a comment, leave a like, leave a
All of
rating.
us are active on some form of social media. So like if you want to like say like, hey, I'd love to hear you guys talk about this. Like if you don't want to do it on the podcast app itself, because like sometimes you have to create an account. But like you want to just like because like right now our sphere of listeners isn't as big, but like maybe there's stuff that we could, look at. We're
Drop
open to suggestions.
drop it in a YouTube comment. Even if you don't want to
Yeah,
watch
YouTube,
the
very
yeah,
easy to comment.
don't even you don't even have to watch the video. Just throw in a comment. I try and read them. I try and keep up with it. But yeah, if you guys have enjoyed, please just keep on trucking on. So on that note, we will catch you guys next week.
Raid Shadow Legends.